The Great Hall floated in space above Proxima Prime, a massive station where the most powerful beings in the galaxy gathered. Today, the air felt heavy with fear. 12 different alien races sat around the circular table, their faces showing worry and anger. They had come to talk about one problem: humanity. Commander Hyun-woo stood at the center of the hall. His tall frame and battle scars showed he was a warrior from the Catharan race. His people had conquered 40 star systems. They had never lost a war. But today, even Hyun-woo felt uncertain. "They are growing too fast," said Lieutenant Yuna, standing beside her commander. She pulled up images of Earth in the air above them. 200 years ago, humans used simple machines that burned fuel. Today, they travel between planets. They split atoms. They manipulate quantum fields. An alien delegate with blue skin spoke up. "Every race develops. Why do humans scare us so much?" Yuna changed the image. Numbers and graphs filled the air. "Our mathematician Nari studied their progress. At their current rate, humans will surpass all of us within 3 generations. Not hundreds of years, not thousands, 3 generations." The hall erupted with voices. Some aliens shouted in fear. Others demanded proof. Commander Hyun-woo raised his hand, and silence fell. "I have fought many enemies," he said slowly. "I know danger when I see it. Humans are dangerous not because of what they are now, but what they will become." The vote was taken. Every single delegate agreed. Humanity had to be stopped before they became unstoppable. Far from that meeting, Captain Dae-jung floated in the observation deck of Sentinel-7, Earth's defense station near Jupiter. He was drinking coffee and looking at the stars when the alarms started screaming. "Captain!" shouted Soo-bin from the navigation console. "We have multiple contacts at the edge of the system." Dae-jung dropped his coffee and ran to the command center. His crew of 30 people rushed to their stations. Woo Jin, the weapons officer, pulled up the sensor data on the main screen. What they saw made Dae-jung's blood turn cold. 300 massive ships had appeared from nowhere. Each one was the size of a small city. They moved in perfect formation, heading straight toward Earth. "Identify them," Dae-jung ordered, his voice steady despite his racing heart. Soo-bin's fingers flew over her controls. "They're Velkari ships, Captain." The Velkari Armada. Everyone in the command center knew what that meant. The Velkari were the most advanced military force in known space. Their weapons could crack planets in half. Their shields had never been broken in 1,000 years of warfare. "Send an emergency signal to Earth," Dae-jung said quietly. "Tell them we have 6 hours before the fleet reaches home." Woo Jin looked up from his console, his face pale. "Captain, should we engage?" Dae-jung looked at their tiny station, then at the 300 warships on the screen. "No, we wouldn't last 5 seconds. All we can do is watch and pray." On the Velkari flagship, Admiral Tae-yang stood with his hands behind his back, watching the blue planet grow larger on his view screen. He felt no joy in this mission. He was a soldier, not a murderer, but orders were orders. "All ships report ready," said his second officer. "Planet-cracking weapons are charged. We will be in firing range in 4 hours." Tae-yang nodded. He had fought in many battles, destroyed many enemies, but this felt different. Humans had done nothing wrong except grow too fast. Was that really a crime worth extinction? He pushed the thought away. Soldiers don't question. They act. The fleet moved forward through the darkness of space. They passed Saturn, its rings glowing in the distant sunlight. They moved past the outer planets, getting closer to Earth with every minute. On Sentinel-7, Dae-jung watched helplessly. He had sent his warnings. Earth's military was mobilizing, but everyone knew it was hopeless. Humanity had no weapons that could stop this fleet. Their best ships were like toys compared to Velkari dreadnoughts. "They're at 4.5 astronomical units," Soo-bin reported, her voice shaking. 4.4 units. 4.3. Daejung closed his eyes. He thought about his family on Earth. His daughter was only 7 years old. She would never grow up. None of them would. 4.2 astronomical units, Captain. Then something impossible happened. The fleet vanished, not exploded, not destroyed, simply gone. One moment, 300 massive warships filled the sensors. The next moment, empty space. Subin? Daejung opened his eyes. Where are they? I don't know, Captain. Subin stared at her console, checking and rechecking her instruments. They were there, then they weren't. No explosion, no energy signature, they just disappeared. Wu Jin pulled up every sensor log, every camera feed. The footage showed the same thing. The Velkari fleet, moving in perfect formation, simply ceased to exist at exactly 4.2 astronomical units from Earth. Run a full diagnostic, Daejung ordered. Check every system. Make sure our sensors are working. For the next hour, they checked everything. All systems worked perfectly. The sensors weren't broken. The cameras weren't malfunctioning. The fleet had really vanished. News of the disappearance reached the Galactic Council within hours. Commander Hyunwoo stood in the same hall, now filled with confused and frightened delegates. "This is impossible!" someone shouted. "Ships don't just disappear." "It must be a human weapon," another delegate said. "They have technology we don't understand." Hyunwoo studied the data that Yuna displayed. He had been a warrior for 50 years. He knew weapons. He knew battles. This was neither. If humans had a weapon this powerful, why didn't they use it before? Why wait until the fleet was almost at their planet? No one had an answer. On Earth, Dr. Yunji gathered her team of scientists in the research facility. Jin Ho, a physicist, and Hye Jin, a xenobiologist, joined her around a table covered with data screens. "What did we fire?" Jin Ho asked. "What weapon did we use?" Yunji shook her head. "Nothing. Our defense grid never activated. Our missiles stayed in their silos. Our ships never launched. We didn't fire a single shot." "Then what happened to them?" Hyejin leaned forward, studying the sensor readings. "I don't know," Yunji admitted. "According to this data, they were there. Then they weren't. No transition, no explosion, no debris field. It's like they were erased from reality." The three scientists worked through the night, analyzing every bit of data they could find. They found nothing. No evidence of any weapon. No unusual energy readings. Nothing that explained how 300 warships simply stopped existing. "Maybe it was a natural phenomenon," Jin Ho suggested. "Some kind of space anomaly?" "At exactly 4.2 astronomical units from Earth?" Yunji said. "That's too convenient to be natural." Back at the Galactic Council, the debate raged for days. Some delegates wanted to send another fleet immediately. Others argued that humanity clearly had defenses beyond their understanding and should be left alone. Commander Hyunwoo listened to all the arguments, but he stayed quiet. In his heart, he knew something the others didn't want to accept. Whatever happened to the Velkari fleet was deliberate. Something or someone had removed them from existence. But it wasn't humans. He looked at Yuna. "What do you think?" She was quiet for a moment. "I think we're missing something important, Commander. Something about humans we don't understand. Or something about the universe," Hyunwoo said quietly. The council meeting ended without a decision. They would wait. They would watch. And if necessary, they would send another force. But next time, they would be more careful. On Earth, life slowly returned to normal. People celebrated their mysterious survival. Captain Daejung was promoted and given a new assignment: figure out what saved Earth. Dr. Yunji continued her research, searching for answers in data that showed nothing. But in the darkness of space, in the place where the Velkari fleet had vanished, something watched and waited. something old, something patient, something that had been protecting life for longer than any species could remember. 3 months passed since the Velkari fleet vanished. In that time, the galaxy held its breath, watching and waiting. The Galactic Council met many times, arguing about what to do next. Some wanted to make peace with humanity. Others wanted revenge. General Jiwoo stood before the council, his armor gleaming under the lights. He was Corvani, a race bred for war. His people specialized in close combat and rapid assault. Where the Velkari failed with long-range weapons, the Corvani would succeed with speed and surprise. "We will not approach from space," Jiwoo explained, pointing to a holographic display of Earth. "We will teleport directly into their atmosphere, 50,000 soldiers appearing in 12 cities at once. We will strike before they can react." Colonel Sung Min, Jiwoo's second-in-command, added more details. "Our personal shields can withstand any human weapon. Our phase rifles can cut through their buildings like paper. The battle will be over in minutes." Commander Hyunwoo watched the presentation with worried eyes. He didn't like this plan. Something felt wrong about it. But the council had already voted. The Corvani would attack in 1 week. Lieutenant Yuna approached Hyunwoo after the meeting. "Commander, I've been studying human history and culture. They're not special. They fight each other. They get sick. They die from simple accidents. Why would the universe protect such ordinary beings?" "That's what bothers me," Hyunwoo said quietly. "If humans didn't make the Velkari disappear, what did?" On Earth, Captain Daejung worked in his new office at Planetary Defense Headquarters. His walls were covered with charts and data, all trying to explain the impossible disappearance. He had spent 3 months searching for answers and found nothing. Dr. Yoon-ji entered his office without knocking. She looked tired, with dark circles under her eyes. "Still nothing," she said, dropping a tablet on his desk. "We've analyzed every sensor reading 100 times. No weapon, no energy blast, no explanation." "Maybe we're looking at this wrong," Daejung said. "Maybe it wasn't a weapon at all." "Then what was it?" Yoon-ji sat down heavily in a chair. "Ships don't just vanish because someone wishes them away." Before Daejung could answer, alarms started blaring throughout the building. A voice came over the speakers. "Alert! Multiple teleportation signatures detected in 12 cities worldwide." Daejung and Yoon-ji ran to the command center. Screens showed cities across Earth: Tokyo, New York, London, Mumbai, and 8 others. In each city, shimming forms were appearing in the sky. The Corvani were coming. General Jiwoo felt the familiar sensation of teleportation. His body turned to energy, traveled through folded space, and began to rematerialize above a human city called Seoul. Around him, thousands of his soldiers appeared at the same time, their forms glowing as they solidified. For 17 seconds, they hung in the air. Jiwoo could see the city below. Humans looking up in fear. He could see their primitive aircraft scrambling to respond. In another moment, his soldiers would fully materialize and the attack would begin. He raised his rifle, ready to give the order to fire. Then the universe blinked. 1 microsecond, 50,000 Corvani soldiers existed across 12 cities. The next microsecond, they were gone. Not falling, not exploding, simply erased from reality. In the command center, Daejung watched it happen on the screens. The alien soldiers appeared, shimmering and translucent. Then, just as their bodies started to look solid, they vanished. All of them. At exactly the same instant. "Did you get that?" he shouted to the technicians. "Yes, sir. All sensors recorded the event." Dr. Yoon-ji was already pulling up the data, her fingers flying across her console. "I'm seeing something," she said, her voice shaking with excitement. "A quantum fluctuation right at the moment of disappearance." Jin-ho ran into the command center, nearly tripping over cables. "I saw it too. The energy signature is impossible." "What do you mean, impossible?" Daejung asked. Jin-ho pulled up complex equations on a screen. This pattern matches theoretical mathematics for dimensional folding, but the power level is billions of times stronger than anything we could generate. It's billions of times stronger than anything that should be possible. Hae-jin joined them, studying the data with wide eyes. The signature didn't come from Earth. It didn't come from any single location. It came from everywhere at once. Yoonji sat back in her chair, her mind racing. What if it's not a weapon at all? What if it's something else? Something bigger? On the Galactic Council station, chaos erupted. 2 attacks, 2 complete failures. 50,000 elite soldiers gone without a trace. The delegates shouted at each other, some in fear, others in rage. "Humanity must have power beyond our understanding," one delegate screamed. "Then why don't they use it to attack us?" another shouted back. "If they're so powerful, why do they stay on their little planet?" Commander Hyun-woo stood up, and his presence made the room go quiet. "Because it's not human power. Something else is protecting them, something we don't understand." "That's impossible," someone said. "There's no force in the universe that protects one species over another." "Then explain what happened," Hyun-woo said calmly. 2 different attacks, 2 different methods. Both eliminated the same way. This isn't luck. This isn't coincidence. Something is deliberately stopping us from reaching Earth. Lieutenant Yuna brought up new data. "I've been researching Earth's history. For the past 4,000 years, 73 asteroids were on collision courses with their planet. All 73 mysteriously changed direction. Is that coincidence?" The hall went silent as delegates absorbed this information. "That was before humans had technology," someone whispered. "Long before." "Exactly," Yuna said. "Whatever is protecting Earth has been doing it for thousands of years." Back on Earth, strange things began happening. People reported unusual dreams, visions of something vast and ancient watching over their world. Fighter pilot Hae-jin experienced the strongest vision while sleeping. She dreamed of Earth not as a planet, but as a seed, a tiny seed in a massive garden. And something was tending that garden, protecting the seed until it could grow strong enough to survive on its own. She woke up crying, though she didn't understand why. Dr. Yoon-ji couldn't sleep that night. She stayed in the lab going through data that went back decades. Woo-jin had sent her something interesting. Astronomical records showing strange patterns around Earth. In 1908, a massive meteor should have destroyed a large part of Russia. It exploded in the air instead, causing minimal damage. In 1989, a solar flare strong enough to destroy all electronics on Earth somehow bent around the planet. In 2003, a gamma ray burst from a nearby supernova aimed directly at Earth's solar system suddenly shifted direction. "It's been protecting us," Yoonji whispered to herself. "All this time, something has been protecting us." Jin-ho entered the lab, also unable to sleep. "I've been thinking about the quantum signature. If it comes from everywhere at once, that means it's woven into space itself, into the fabric of reality." "Like an immune system," Yoonji said suddenly. "The universe has an immune system, and it's protecting Earth like white blood cells protect a body." "But why Earth?" Jin-ho asked. "Why humans? We're not special." "Maybe we are," Yoonji said quietly. "Or maybe every young species gets this protection, and we just never knew about it." At the Galactic Council, Commander Hyun-woo made a decision. He spoke privately with several delegates, including some who had opposed him before. "We need to try one more time," he said. "But not to attack, to understand." "What do you mean?" asked a delegate. "I mean we send a single ship, unarmed, with a message of peace. If it vanishes like the others, we know the protection is absolute. If it doesn't vanish, maybe we can communicate with whatever is protecting them." But other delegates disagreed strongly. They gathered in secret and made their own plans. If the council wouldn't act, they would. They would gather the largest fleet in galactic history and crush Earth through sheer numbers. Whatever force protected humanity, it couldn't stop thousands of ships all at once. Or so they believed. On Earth, Captain Dae-jung stood on the roof of Defense Headquarters looking up at the stars. Somewhere out there, aliens were planning their next move. He could feel it. Dr. Yoonji joined him, bringing 2 cups of coffee. "Do you think they'll try again?" "Yes," Dae-jung said without hesitation. "They're scared. Scared beings do desperate things." "Will it protect us again?" Yoonji asked. "Whatever it is?" Dae-jung was quiet for a long time. "I don't know. Maybe it has limits. Maybe next time we'll have to protect ourselves." "Then we should prepare," Yoonji said. "How do you prepare to fight forces that can crack planets?" Dae-jung asked with a sad smile. "By learning from whatever is protecting us," Yoonji said. "By trying to understand. That's all we can do." Above them, the stars shone cold and distant, and somewhere in that darkness, something ancient stirred. The Corvani attack had been stopped, but more were coming. The universe's patience was not infinite. Soon, humanity would have to stand on its own. Soon, the real test would begin. The Galactic Council split in half. Some members wanted to leave Earth alone, believing humanity was protected by something they couldn't fight. Others saw this as their last chance. If they didn't act now, humanity might spread across the galaxy with that protection following them. Commander Hyunwoo found himself leading the war faction, though doubt ate at his heart. He gathered delegates in a private meeting room, away from those who wanted peace. "We build a fleet like nothing the galaxy has ever seen," he said, his voice hard. "Every civilization contributes their strongest ships. We attack from all directions at once. Whatever protects Earth will be overwhelmed by sheer numbers." The plan took shape over weeks. 3,000 warships would gather, dreadnoughts that could destroy moons, carriers holding millions of fighters, siege platforms with weapons that could bend reality itself. Species that had been enemies for thousands of years now agreed to work together, united by their fear of humanity. Lieutenant Yu-na watched the fleet assembly from the command ship. She felt sick inside. "Commander, I've studied humans for months now. They're just people. They laugh, they cry, they make mistakes. They're not gods. Why does the universe protect them?" "That's what we're going to find out," Hyunwoo said. But even he didn't believe his own words anymore. The armada grew day by day. Ships arrived from across the galaxy, filling space with metal and firepower. The Rektar brought their reality warpers. The Psalm contributed their sunbreakers. The Zenth added their time dilators. Every race brought their most terrible weapons. Captain Dae-jung stood before the United Earth Council, facing the leaders of every nation. The holographic displays showed the gathering armada, visible even through Earth's telescopes now. "We have no defense against this," he said simply. "The previous incidents eliminated fleets of hundreds or thousands. This armada has millions of soldiers and weapons that can crack planets. Whatever protected us before might not work against such overwhelming force." "What do you suggest?" asked the Earth Council's chairwoman. "Prepare evacuation ships for Earth's children," Dae-jung said quietly. "If we must die, let our young survive to carry on our species." The room fell silent. Then, one by one, the council members nodded. It was the only plan that made sense. Dr. Yoonji worked frantically with Jin-ho, trying to understand the protective force. They had quantum signatures, energy patterns, mathematical models, but they couldn't communicate with it, couldn't control it, couldn't even predict when it would appear. "It's like trying to talk to gravity," Jin-ho said in frustration. "It's just there. It does what it does. We can't ask it for help." "Then we're helpless," Yoonji said, slamming her hands on the table. "We're children waiting for a parent to save us. But what if the parent has decided we're old enough to face danger on our own?" Navigator Subin coordinated the evacuation effort. Thousands of ships were being prepared to carry Earth's children to distant colonies. It would take years for them to reach safety, but it was better than nothing. She worked without sleeping, driven by the thought of her own daughter being on one of those ships. Hyajin trained Earth's defense forces, though everyone knew it was hopeless. Human fighters against alien dreadnoughts was like throwing stones at a mountain. Still, she pushed her pilots hard. "If we're going to die, we die fighting," she told them. Then, 5 days before the Armada would reach Earth, something strange began. A researcher in Egypt called Dr. Yunji in the middle of the night. "The pyramids are glowing," the researcher said, his voice shaking. "What do you mean glowing?" Yunji asked. "I mean they're emitting the same quantum signature you detected during the previous incidents. Come see for yourself." Yunji flew to Egypt with Jin Ho. When they arrived at the pyramids, they stood in awe. The ancient structures pulsed with soft light, visible even in daylight. Instruments showed massive energy readings coming from the stone itself. "These are thousands of years old," Jin Ho whispered. "Built before humans understood physics. How can they produce energy?" Reports came in from around the world. Stonehenge in England was glowing. Ancient temples in Cambodia pulsed with light. Stone circles in Scotland emitted energy. The giant heads on Easter Island shone in the darkness. Mounds in North America that had stood silent for millennia now hummed with power. All of them showed the same quantum signature. All of them had been built thousands of years ago by humans who shouldn't have understood such things. "They're not producing energy," Yunji said suddenly. "They're receivers. Antennas. They've always been here, waiting to activate when needed." "Receivers for what?" Jin Ho asked. Before Yunji could answer, Wu Jin called from the defense station. "Dr. Yunji, you need to see this. The energy signatures from the monuments are connecting. They're forming a network around the entire planet." The Armada reached the edge of the solar system. 3,000 ships moved in perfect formation, the largest military force in galactic history. On the flagship, Commander Hyun-woo stood surrounded by commanders from dozens of species. Old enemies stood side by side, united by fear. "All ships report ready," announced the communications officer. Hyun-woo nodded slowly. He looked at Lieutenant Yuna, who stood quietly beside him. He could see doubt in her eyes, the same doubt he felt. "Begin the advance," he ordered. The massive fleet moved forward, passing Neptune. Their sensors scanned constantly for any sign of defense systems. They found nothing. Earth lay ahead, seemingly helpless. They passed Uranus, then Saturn. Still nothing happened. Maybe the protective force had limits. Maybe overwhelming numbers would succeed where smaller forces failed. As they passed Jupiter, Hyun-woo allowed himself a moment of hope. Perhaps this would work. Perhaps they would reach Earth and could force humanity to surrender rather than destroy them. Then Yuna spoke, her voice tight with fear. "Commander, I'm detecting the quantum signature. It's everywhere. Not coming from Earth, but from space itself." On Earth, Captain Dae-jung stood in the command center with Dr. Yoon-ji and her team. They watched the Armada's approach on the main screen. Every human on the planet knew what was coming. Cities had been evacuated. Children were boarding the evacuation ships. People held their loved ones close, waiting for the end. "The energy from the ancient structures is reaching critical levels," Jin Ho reported. "It's like they're charging up." "For what?" Dae-jung asked. "I don't know. Protection? Communication? Or maybe our protection is ending," Yoon-ji finished quietly. "Maybe this is the moment we're supposed to stand on our own." Subin looked up from her console, tears running down her face. "My daughter is on evacuation ship 7. She's only 6 years old. I'll never see her again." Dae-jung walked over and put a hand on her shoulder. "She'll survive. She'll tell others about us, about Earth. We won't be forgotten. Back in space, the Armada continued its advance. They could see Earth now, a blue and green marble floating in the darkness. So beautiful, so fragile. All weapon systems charged, reported the tactical officer. Ready to fire on your command. Hyun-woo stared at the planet. He thought about his own homeworld, so long ago. He thought about the stories his people told of their early days, of surviving against impossible odds. Old stories that nobody believed anymore. "Commander," Yuna said softly, "I'm detecting something. The quantum signature is intensifying. It's not just around Earth anymore, it's around us, too." Hyun-woo felt the hair on his neck stand up. "Report. The fabric of space itself is changing. It's like reality is becoming fluid around us. On Earth, every ancient monument on the planet blazed with light. The pyramids in Egypt glowed like small suns. Stonehenge shot beams of light into the sky. The temples in Cambodia pulsed with power. All around the world, structures built by ancient humans thousands of years ago activated as one. "The network is complete," Yoonji said, watching her instruments with wide eyes. "All the monuments are linked. They're creating a field around the entire planet." "Is it a shield?" Daijung asked. "I don't think so. It's more like a beacon or a signal. They're calling to something." In space, the Armada suddenly stopped moving. Not because the commanders ordered it. The ships simply froze in place, unable to move forward or back. 3,000 warships hung motionless in the void, caught in something invisible. "What's happening?" Hyun-woo demanded. "Why have we stopped?" "The quantum field," Yuna said, her voice barely a whisper. "It's holding us. We're frozen in space-time." Then something appeared. Not a ship, not a weapon, something else entirely. The void between the Armada and Earth began to shimmer. Colors that had no names flickered in the darkness. The very air inside the ship seemed to hum with a sound too low to hear, but felt in the bones. And then, for the first time in millions of years, the Guardians made themselves known. They weren't beings. They weren't gods. They were patterns woven into the fabric of reality itself. They were the universe's way of protecting life when it was most vulnerable. And they had been watching over Earth and countless other worlds since the first complex organisms emerged in the cosmos. Every person on Earth felt it. Every alien in the Armada felt it. A presence vast and ancient, speaking not in words but in pure understanding that filled their minds. And in that moment, everything changed. The understanding flooded into every conscious mind in the solar system at once. Not words, not language, pure knowledge flowing directly into their thoughts like water, filling an empty cup. Commander Hyun-woo stood frozen on his bridge, tears streaming down his face as he understood what the Guardians were. They were not a species. They were not artificial intelligence. They were emergent patterns of consciousness woven into reality itself, appearing only when young life faced premature extinction. They had existed since the first complex organisms formed in the universe. When life was too young, too vulnerable, too precious to lose, the Guardians emerged to give it time to grow. They were the universe's way of protecting its children. On Earth, Dr. Yoonji fell to her knees in her lab, understanding washing over her. Captain Dae-jung sat down heavily in his chair, his hands shaking. All across the planet, humans received the same knowledge. They weren't special. They weren't chosen. They were simply young, and the young deserved protection. But the revelation didn't end there. The Guardians showed them more. They showed them the truth about every species in the frozen Armada. Lieutenant Yuna gasped as memories that weren't her own filled her mind. She saw her people, the Catharans, 50,000 years in the past. Not the mighty warriors they were today, but weak, primitive beings huddling in caves on their homeworld. She saw a fleet of Extinction-class weapons approaching Cathara. Massive ships belonging to a long-dead empire, intent on wiping out the Catharans before they could become a threat. She saw the fleet vanish without a trace at the edge of Cathara's solar system, exactly as the Velkari fleet had vanished near Earth. The Catharans survived. They grew. They evolved. They became warriors, and they forgot they had ever been protected. The revelation continued, spreading through the Armada like wildfire. Every species received their own forgotten history. The Velkari, masters of technology, saw themselves as primitive beings 2 million years ago. A cosmic event threatened to sterilize their planet. Gamma radiation from a nearby supernova, powerful enough to kill all life. The Guardians redirected it, bending the radiation around their world. The Velkari survived and eventually developed their advanced technology, but they never knew why that supernova's radiation missed them when all calculations said it shouldn't have. The Corvani remembered their past. General Ji Woo, whose consciousness still existed somewhere in the void where he had vanished, saw his ancestors. They were peaceful farmers once, not warriors. A plague from space threatened to kill them all. The plague vanished overnight, disappeared by the Guardians. The Corvani lived and later became soldiers. They forgot they were once protected. Species after species saw their forgotten origins. The Rektar, the Solm, the Zenth. Every civilization in the Armada had been protected during their vulnerable years. Every single one had been given time to mature by the same force now protecting humanity. And every single one had forgotten. On the command ship, Hyun-woo sank into his chair, his face in his hands. "We were them once," he whispered. "We were exactly like humans, weak, vulnerable, afraid, and something saved us." Yuna stood beside him, her own cheeks wet with tears. "We became the very thing that once threatened us. We became the monsters we should have remembered." The Guardians spoke again, their message clear to all. Humanity was not special because of power or destiny. They were protected because they emerged in a hostile galaxy too quickly, surrounded by too many predators, with no time to mature naturally. But the protection was ending. Not because humans were strong enough to defend themselves. They clearly weren't. The Armada before them proved that. No. The protection was ending because humanity had reached a critical point in their development. They had to face real threats now, make real choices, and determine what kind of species they would become. The Guardians could not make that choice for them. No parent could live their child's life for them. Humanity had to grow up, even if growing up meant facing dangers they weren't ready for. But there was more. The Guardians showed everyone a choice. This choice was for the humans and the aliens alike. The Armada could continue its attack. The Guardians would not stop it. They would step aside and let nature take its course. If humanity was destroyed, that would be the natural result of free will and choice. If humanity survived through luck or courage or unexpected strength, that too would be their choice. Or the Armada could withdraw. The species could form a new kind of council, not based on fear and preemptive strikes, but on shepherding younger species as they themselves had once been shepherded. They could remember their own protection and offer the same mercy to others. The choice was theirs. All of them. Together. On Earth, Dae-jung stood and addressed his crew. Did everyone receive that message? Heads nodded around the command center. Subin wiped her eyes. Woo-jin stared at his console in shock. Hai-jin, watching from a fighter cockpit, felt her entire understanding of the universe shift. "What do we do?" Subin asked quietly. "We wait," Dae-jung said. "The choice isn't ours. It's theirs. We can only hope they make the right one." Dr. Yunji stood up in her lab, her mind racing. "Jin-ho, did you understand what they showed us?" "Yes," Jin-ho said, his voice shaking. "The ancient monuments on Earth. They weren't built by humans alone. The Guardians guided our ancestors, helped them place receivers that would activate when needed. Our own ancient people were part of the protection system without even knowing it. "We've been connected to this force for thousands of years," Yunji said, "not through technology, but through something deeper, through the universe itself." In the frozen armada, chaos erupted. Ship by ship, crew by crew, the aliens argued among themselves. Some demanded to continue the attack, others refused, horrified by what they now understood about their own history. Hyun-woo called an emergency meeting of all ship commanders. Holograms of dozens of aliens appeared in his command room, all talking at once. Some shouted in anger, others wept. A few sat in stunned silence. "Quiet," Hyun-woo's voice cut through the noise. "We must decide. The Guardians gave us a choice. What will we choose?" A Rektar commander spoke, his voice harsh. "We should continue. They are still weak, still vulnerable. If we don't eliminate them now, they will threaten us later." "Like we threatened them?" Yuna said quietly. "Like we became the very thing that would have killed us if not for the Guardians?" "That was different," the Rektar commander insisted. "How?" Hyun-woo asked. "How is it different? We were protected. We grew strong. Now we want to deny others the same chance we received. We're hypocrites. Worse, we're monsters." General Ji-woo's voice suddenly joined the conversation, transmitted from wherever the Guardians had taken him. "Commander Hyun-woo is right. I led the Corvani assault. I was ready to kill millions of humans. Now I understand what I was doing. I was killing our younger selves. I was destroying the very innocence we once possessed." The meeting continued for hours. Some commanders withdrew their ships immediately, refusing to participate in the attack any longer. Others remained, insisting that humanity still posed a threat. On Earth, people watched and waited. Parents held their children, lovers embraced, old enemies forgave each other, knowing that if this was the end, they wanted to face it without hatred in their hearts. The ancient monuments continued to glow, their light visible from space. They weren't weapons. They were never weapons. They were simply markers showing the Guardians where protection was needed, like a child's nightlight, calling to a parent in the dark. Finally, Commander Hyun-woo made his decision. "I'm withdrawing," he announced to all ships. "My fleet will not attack Earth. Not today, not ever. I will not become the monster that the Guardians saved us from." Yuna nodded in agreement. "The Catharan people agree. We withdraw." One by one, commanders announced their decisions. Most chose to withdraw, but not all. 200 ships remained, their commanders unmoved by the revelation. They saw the Guardians' non-intervention as permission to finish what they started. The leader of these remaining ships was a Rektar admiral named Krone. "The past doesn't matter," he broadcast. "Only the future matters. Humanity will threaten us. Better to end them now while we can." Hyun-woo tried one last time. "Admiral Krone, please, don't do this." "My decision is made," Krone said coldly. "Any ship that interferes will be considered an enemy." The armada split. 200 ships moved toward Earth, weapons charging. The other ships began to withdraw, their commanders unable to continue the attack after the Guardians' revelation. But then something unexpected happened. Ships from the withdrawing armada stopped their retreat. They turned around. They positioned themselves between Earth and the attacking force. "What are you doing?" Admiral Krone demanded. Commander Hyun-woo's voice came over the communication channel, clear and strong. "We were protected once. Now it's our turn to protect others. If you want to destroy Earth, you'll have to go through us first." The space between Earth and the attacking fleet filled with ships. Commander Hyun-woo's Catharan vessels took the front line. General Ji-woo, somehow returned by the Guardians, led his Corvani ships to join them. The Velkari remnants, still ashamed of their first failed attack, moved into position. Dozens of species that had once agreed to destroy humanity now stood ready to defend it. "This is madness," Admiral Crone broadcasted from his flagship. "You're protecting our future enemies." "No," Hyun-woo replied calmly. "We're protecting our past selves, and we're breaking the cycle of fear that has ruled this galaxy for too long." On Earth, Captain Dae-jung watched the scene unfold on his screens. "They're defending us," he whispered. "Species we never met, aliens who wanted us dead hours ago. They're willing to die for us." Dr. Yoon-ji stood beside him, tears running down her face. "They're not just defending us. They're defending what they could have been if they had remembered their own protection sooner." Subin pulled up tactical data. "Captain, Admiral Crone has 200 ships. Commander Hyun-woo has maybe 800. But Crone's ships are all equipped for planetary assault. They have the heavier weapons." "Should we launch our fighters?" Woo Jin asked. Dae-jung shook his head slowly. "No. This is their choice to make, their redemption. We honor it by staying out of their way." In space, the two fleets faced each other. Weapons charged, shields activated. For a long moment, nobody moved. The universe held its breath. Then Admiral Crone gave the order. "Fire!" The battle erupted across space. Energy beams cut through the darkness. Missiles streaked toward their targets. Ships exploded in brilliant flashes of light. Hyun-woo's forces fought desperately, trying to hold the line between Earth and the attackers. The Catharan dreadnought took a direct hit, its shields flaring bright before failing. Hyun-woo gripped his command chair as his ship shook. "Return fire! Don't let them through!" Lieutenant Yuna coordinated the defense, directing ships to fill gaps in their formation. "3 enemy vessels breaking through on the left flank." General Ji-woo's ship intercepted them, his Corvani fighters swarming the attackers. "I've got them! Focus on the main group!" But the attackers were pushing forward. For every ship they lost, they destroyed 2 of Hyun-woo's. The math was simple and brutal. Eventually, they would break through. On Earth, Woo Jin's defense station shook as a stray shot struck it. "We're taking fire! Enemy weapons are getting through!" Dae-jung watched helplessly as several defense platforms exploded. "Hold your positions! Do not fire back! Let them finish what they started!" Dr. Yoon-ji grabbed his arm. "Dae-jung, we can't just watch our defenders die." "We have to," Dae-jung said, his voice breaking. "If we intervene, we make their sacrifice meaningless. They chose this. We have to let them make that choice." In space, Hyun-woo's flagship took another hit. Fire spread through the lower decks. Half his weapons were offline. "Yuna, status report." "We've lost 30 ships, Commander. The enemy has lost 20. They're still pushing forward." Hyun-woo looked at the blue planet behind them, so beautiful and fragile. He thought about his own homeworld, saved by the Guardians long ago. He thought about all the generations of Catharans who lived because someone else gave them a chance. "All ships, this is Commander Hyun-woo. Do not retreat. Do not fall back. We hold this line no matter the cost." Then something unexpected happened. More ships arrived. Not from the attacking force, not from the defenders. These were new vessels jumping in from across the galaxy. The Torv Confederation had arrived, bringing 50 warships. Their leader broadcasted a simple message. "We received the Guardian's message. We remember now. We stand with Earth." The Mira Collective jumped in next, adding 70 ships to the defense. "We were protected once. Now we protect." One by one, more species arrived. Some sent only a few ships. Others sent entire fleets. All had received the Guardian's revelation. All had remembered their forgotten past. All chose to defend humanity rather than destroy it. Admiral Crone watched his tactical display in disbelief as his numerical advantage vanished. "This is impossible. The entire galaxy can't be against us." "They're not against us," Hyun-woo broadcasted. "They're for something better. They're for mercy instead of fear, for protection instead of prevention. Join us, Crone. It's not too late. Never! Crone screamed. His fleet charged forward, desperate now, knowing they were losing. The battle intensified. Ships from dozens of species fought side by side, many of them ancient enemies now united in common purpose. The Torv and the Mira, who had warred for centuries, coordinated their attacks perfectly. The Solm and the Zenth, bitter rivals, covered each other's flanks. Slowly, inevitably, Crone's force was pushed back. His ships fell one by one, overwhelmed by sheer numbers and the determination of defenders fighting for something bigger than themselves. Finally, with only 20 ships remaining, Admiral Crone retreated. His fleet jumped away, defeated but not destroyed. Hyun Woo let them go. There had been enough death today. On Earth, cheering erupted in the command center. Subin hugged Woo Jin. Ye-Jin landed her fighter and collapsed in relief. Across the planet, humans celebrated their survival. But Captain Dae-jung didn't celebrate. He opened a communication channel to Commander Hyun-woo's damaged ship. "Commander, this is Captain Dae-jung of Earth. Your people and your allies saved us. We can never repay that debt." Hyun-woo's face appeared on the screen, covered in soot and blood from the battle. "You don't owe us a debt, Captain. We owe you an apology. We tried to kill you out of fear. We became monsters. Today, we simply tried to become better." "What happens now?" Dae-jung asked. "Now," Hyun-woo said tiredly, "we build something new, something better than the council that ordered your destruction." In the weeks that followed, representatives from over 80 species gathered in a space station built in neutral territory. This wasn't the Galactic Council. This was something different. They called it the Accord of Emergence. Dr. Yoon-ji represented Earth at the first meeting along with Captain Dae-jung. They sat among alien species, no longer as victims or threats, but as equals. The Accord established simple principles. Protect developing civilizations instead of destroying them. Share knowledge instead of hoarding it. Remember the past instead of forgetting it. Lieutenant Yu-na worked with Dr. Yoon-ji to establish a joint research station. Their mission was to study the Guardians, not to weaponize them, but to understand how the universe naturally protected life. Jin-ho and Nari, the Velkari mathematician, collaborated on the theoretical physics, making breakthroughs neither species could achieve alone. Navigator Subin captained the first human vessel allowed to travel beyond the solar system. Her crew was half human, half alien. They explored not to conquer, but to learn. She took her daughter with her, showing her the wonders of the galaxy instead of hiding from them. Fighter pilot Ye-jin became Earth's first ambassador to the Catharan homeworld. She learned their language, their customs, their history. She helped them remember the protection they had received and forgotten. Woo Jin stayed on Earth training the next generation of defenders, but his lessons were different now. "We don't train to attack," he told his students. "We train to protect, to give others the same chance we received." General Ji Woo did something unexpected. He returned to his homeworld and established an academy. But this academy didn't train soldiers. It trained teachers and peacekeepers. He taught young Corvani about their forgotten history, about the Guardians, about mercy and protection. "We were warriors," he told his students. "We conquered and we killed, but we forgot why we survived to become warriors in the first place. We forgot someone protected us. Now we must protect others." Commander Hyun-woo retired from military service. He spent his remaining years writing a history of the galactic species, documenting how each one had been protected and how each had forgotten. His book became required reading in schools across the galaxy. In his final chapter, he wrote, "We vanished once, each of us, saved by forces beyond our understanding. We lived because the universe chose mercy over efficiency, protection over natural selection. We forgot this truth and became destroyers, until one species, humanity, reminded us who we truly were. not by defeating us, but by making us remember. Years passed. The accord of emergence grew stronger. More species joined, including some who had attacked Earth. Admiral Crone eventually returned, older and wiser, to ask forgiveness. Earth granted it. The ancient monuments on Earth slowly stopped glowing. Their purpose was fulfilled. They had called to the Guardians one last time, and the Guardians had responded by teaching everyone a lesson about mercy and memory. Dr. Yunji stood at the pyramids in Egypt, now an old woman, her hand held by Captain Daejung. "Do you think the Guardians are still watching?" she asked. "Always," Daejung said. "They never stopped. But now we're watching too. We're becoming the Guardians for younger species." Somewhere in deep space, a young civilization took its first steps into the cosmos. They were weak, vulnerable, afraid. A hostile empire noticed them and began planning their destruction. But before the empire could act, ships arrived. Not to conquer, not to destroy. Ships from the Accord of Emergence, carrying humans and Catharans and Velkari and dozens of other species. They positioned themselves between the young civilization and danger. They offered protection, knowledge, and time to grow. They remembered their own protection, and they passed it forward. The galaxy's strongest forces had once advanced toward humanity and vanished without a trace. But they hadn't disappeared forever. They had transformed. They had evolved from destroyers into protectors, from conquerors into teachers, from beings driven by fear into beings guided by remembered mercy. And humanity, once the weakest and most threatened species in the galaxy, became the reminder that every strong species was once weak, every protector was once protected, and every ending could become a beginning if people chose to remember rather than forget. The age of fear had ended. The age of chosen compassion had begun. And the universe watched its children finally growing up, not by becoming powerful, but by becoming wise enough to protect those who came after them. The Guardians had given everyone a gift, the memory of mercy. And that memory would echo across the galaxy for millions of years to come, protecting countless civilizations yet to emerge, yet to grow, yet to face their own moment of choice. This was not the end of the story. It was the beginning of something far greater, something that would spread across the cosmos like light pushing back darkness. And it all started because the strongest forces in the galaxy learned what it meant to vanish and return, not as destroyers, but as guardians of life itself.